You should sue, though, because your case is clear-cut, can provide precedent that other smaller creators could use for cover. I'll think about it. It is kind of wild that he got so horny that he just, like, hit me with a total textbook case of defamation. But I suspect that the ADL has, like, incredible lawyers. You know what I mean? All right. So, last night, two people that work for the Israeli embassy were shot. Two Israeli embassy staff members were shot and killed outside of the Capital Jewish Museum in D.C. This is breaking news. And a lot of people instantly rushed online to get their thoughts out.
Heartbreaking and senseless again, and that is where we're going to start this morning with that shocking news from Washington that you're waking up to. Last night, two Israeli embassy staff members were shot and killed as they left an event at the Capital Jewish Museum. Now, video from the scene shows the arrest of a man who appears to be the shooter. The victims have been identified as a young couple who were set to be engaged. They were killed right across the street from an FBI field office and less than a mile from the U.S. Capitol. Scott McFarland is near the scene right now. Scott, good morning. I know that this is a very fluid situation right now, but what can you tell us so far?
Hey, Gail, the Capital Jewish Museum is that smaller brick building behind me, if you look closely at your screen. And that police tape is hanging from the side of the Washington, D.C. FBI field office. That's how high security.
Have you seen everyone trying to call a false flag event? I think people's brains have been cooked, but I get why people think that. There are a million different opinions out there. Some people think, oh, it's great, I'm glad that this happened. Other people say this is the most heinous act of violence that has ever taken place. Please do not pay attention to the dead Palestinian children, that Israel is melting at a rapid clip, and instead talk about this. There are plenty of people who are using this as an opportunity to be like, this is a heinous anti-Semitic act of violence. Everyone that says free Palestine should be instantly jailed, all this stuff. Ultimately, I mean, look, this is, let's just go through the details, and I'll give you my perspective. Okay. What the fuck does set to be engaged mean? Are they engaged to be married? Said to be engaged is they're humanizing the victims in this situation. That's why they're you know, this is how it goes. Obviously, there's no such humanization, of course, when the victim of an Islamophobic attack is a 7-year-old child, and that doesn't happen obviously in the United States of America. But the reason why they're talking about it is because he bought a ring to basically announce his engagement to the girl that he was dating. They're both in the Israeli embassy
area.
But the reason why people are like saying this is a psyop is for two reasons. I don't think it is, for the record, and I'll tell you why. The reason why people think it's a psyop is because this happened right after the Israeli occupying force shot at diplomats in the West Bank, and immediately people with maybe a little bit too much pattern recognition turn around and go, "Ooh, that's probably a way." Like they probably executed these like low-level Israeli diplomats so that they can like change the SEO or whatever when people type in Israeli diplomat attack or something. And no, that's not the case. That's ridiculous. Or, people think it's a psyop or people think it's a psyop because like they're just like sacrificing low-level Israel embassy workers because they claim, you know, they want to change like the victimhood narrative back to Israel or something. Okay. But of course, there are a lot of pro-Israeli accounts that are using this opportunity, as they use any opportunity, to turn around and say, oh my God, we have to stop people from saying free Palestine, which is ridiculous. Suck my dick. Okay. Actually, suck my dick. Yeah, you're right. You know, this, because of this incident, we should actually just close our eyes to the genocide that Israel is doing. Yeah, that seems like a reasonable bargain.
We are steps away from the Justice Department, from the D.C. police headquarters, from the U.S. Capitol. This was nevertheless the scene of a targeted attack last night.
Tonight, a heinous crime was committed.
A fatal shooting outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C.
Damn, he hit that Jewish hard.
Wednesday night. Law enforcement says prior to the attack, the suspect was observed pacing back and forth outside the museum.
He approached a group of 4 people, produced a handgun, and opened fire, striking both of our decedents. After the shooting, the suspect then entered the museum and was detained by event security.
This morning, the Israeli Foreign Ministry named the 2 victims as Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram, embassy staff workers in Washington.
I don't know about the girl, but I know the dude's background. I've looked into the dude's background, and the dude is like a Jews for Jesus guy. He is a German Christian originally, which makes the story even crazier when people are like, oh, dude, this is an anti-Semitic hate crime. It's like, bro, very clearly, the dude even wrote a manifesto, the dude that did it, okay? The dude that did it wrote a manifesto, and it's entirely about Israel, okay? Like, entirely about Israel. The victims are Israeli embassy workers, and not only that, but also, like, one of the dudes that work for the Israeli embassy is a German Christian. Like, a German Christian that was... I guess he like changed his name or something. I don't know what the was going on there. Like but regardless, this could have been anti-Semitic or not. I don't know. Could he have known that they were staff, or did he just target random people leaving the museum? Impossible to tell. And the possibility of backlash from the state is terrifying. This is how Kristallnacht started. Exactly. And to be, yes, I don't think that the person who, like, the gunman knew exactly who the he was targeting. And the reality of the matter is, this is. I'll give you an example. Yeah, the dude also volunteered for the IDF, even though he's dude, I thought they were Israelis. What the no, the dude is.
A man purchased a ring this week with the intention of proposing to his girlfriend next week in Jerusalem.
The suspect, who's now in custody, was identified by police as 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez from Chicago. The FBI says it's investigating ties to potential terrorism and his motivation.
The suspect chanted, "Free, free Palestine," while in custody.
Witnesses say Rodriguez was with them inside the museum after the shooting before they realized who he was.
So about 10 minutes later, when the cops actually came in, he said, "I did this." He said, "Sir, I'm unarmed." He put his hands up. He grabbed a red keffiyeh out of his pocket and started the Free Palestine chants.
President Trump responded to the shooting.
He dude, oh my God. He hit like every button he possibly could. Yeah. By the way, he was Christian. She was an American Jew. None of them were Israeli, yet they are literally working for Israel. Insane that these people don't have to register as foreign agents. I know it's kind of the point. This is how it works. Like, it's just, if he had yelled from the river to the sea, that would have nuked him. No, dude. Him saying free, free Palestine, and also having like the red keffiyeh on the ground, like all of that is so perfectly placed for the government to say, if you have a red keffiyeh, you're going to jail. You're a terrorist. If you say free, free Palestine, you're going to jail. You're a terrorist. Like, it is. I don't think it's a false flag or anything, but it's so perfectly designed for the government to utilize in an effort to stop people from saying, like, Israel, please stop murdering children. Like, it is so perfectly designed, okay? Anyway, let's continue.
Posting these horrible D.C. killings, based obviously on anti-Semitism, must end. Adding, hatred and radicalism have no place in the USA.
Dude, you are Donald Trump. What are you saying? Donald Trump. Donald Trump saying this is like Adolf Hitler saying this, okay? It's like, what do you mean hatred and radicalism have no place in the USA? You literally won on hatred and radicalism. You are Donald Trump. Did you forget who you are? Yesterday, he literally was talking about how there's a white genocide happening in South Africa. It is literally a white nationalist conspiracy that virtually no one believes. White people in South Africa don't believe it. And only a select handful neo-Nazis advance this conspiracy theory, and Donald Trump is one of those guys now. This isn't Trump, is just a staffer.
Trump contacted Attorney General Pam Bondi, who was with the Israeli ambassador.
Together with President Trump, our Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will stand together tall and firm, and we will confront this moral depravity without fear and with determination.
Israel's prime minister says they are strengthening security arrangements at their posts at their Israeli government facilities across the globe. An initial search by law enforcement.
The event was not a Jewish LGBTQ event. Earlier, Chatter lied it was an event for Israeli diplomats. AJC's access, young diplomats reception. That's what it was, right? The American Jewish Center or whatever. Like that's what here. AJC's event targeted in DC shooting was AJC's Young Diplomats reception about response to humanitarian crises. The event Wednesday night at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. outside of the deadly shooting. Also, don't say the person was lying, okay? Don't immediately assume that they were lying. They could have been misguided, okay? Calm down. Yeah, I don't endorse the notion of it being a false flag, but here's the video of him being apprehended. I know, I saw this, which is why I was like, this is insane. Like the way, like, look, there is a... Like the guy picks up the keffiyeh from the ground. This isn't even the best version of this video. Because like I think he literally takes it out of his pocket or something and like tosses it.
Free Palestine! Free!
By the way, one of the craziest parts about this in this video is that there are dudes there. This guy just shot people. He is turning himself in. He says, free Palestine. And there's still there that are going from Hamas. I was like, bro, do you have no sense of safety? Like, how embedded is this in your mind? Like, automatically, you hear someone go free Palestine, and you go from Hamas. It blew my mind. I was like, dude, no sense of being. No, you're just like, at that point, you are just a vehicle for Israel. You are in DC as an American citizen, and you are so invested in like behaving like a bot that you hear free Palestine, and immediately, even after, like you don't know what the situation is. You don't know if there's a bomb there. You don't know if there's other shooters there. You are literally just auto Hasbara bot mode. You hear free Palestine, you go, from Hamas. You know what I'd be doing in that situation? Running away. That's what I would be doing. I wouldn't be like immediately, time for the retort. Like you're not a part of a barbershop quartet or whatever the fuck it's called, okay? What do you mean?
Free Palestine from Hamas!
Like, what? Like, that's insane. That's insane.
Free Palestine from Hamas!
They are definitely going to start clamping down on Palestine protests just before Israel's displacement plan. Yeah, I think so too. I think so as well. I mean, it's like saying that they're going to clamp down on pro-Palestinian protests now is kind of funny too, because it's like, now you mean, you know, they have been doing that already pretty aggressively. As a matter of fact, they've been doing that. So I don't think that that's like anything new. They'll just like escalate it. But yeah, here, I'll give you the analog here, okay? Luigi Mangione was an adventurist, okay? He had obviously a goal, and because so many people had been directly victimized by healthcare in this country, that as soon as we knew who the victim was, everybody immediately understood what the motives were, right? Allegedly, Luigi Mangione, despite being an adventurist, had like a clear-cut agenda that most Americans very quickly understood. Even if they didn't agree with the methods, like they kind of understood where the resentment was coming from. I wouldn't say that this situation is comparable, and here's why. Because Luigi Mangione, allegedly, okay, I think he's innocent personally, but when Luigi Mangione targeted the United Healthcare CEO, that was the United Healthcare CEO. Luigi Mangione didn't go and kill the I don't know, reception desk worker at United Healthcare and then turned around and said free healthcare, right? And that's the major difference. If Luigi had done it, of course. allegedly. I'm saying allegedly Luigi Mangione, who I think is an innocent man and is unjustly maligned. If allegedly he had done this act, that would be the equivalent to what took place here. Okay, that would be the equivalent to what took place here. Now, I'm not going to entertain the emotional blackmail that Israel defenders who very clearly don't care about victims of Islamophobia, or even these people that died and simply only care about defending Israel's interests. The emotional blackmail that they are going to try to enforce here at a time when Israel has very openly stated their desire for permanent ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian population in the Gaza Strip. That's not going to happen. Okay, so don't expect that from me. I'm not entertaining that. Okay, having said that, that's my position. I explained it to you. This is, going after low-level people, and it's most likely going to be used against the Palestinian movement. But I'm also not going to sit around and constantly wail away either. Okay, did you see PSL National's tweet? Yes. So the alleged perpetrator yesterday was a former PSL member. So, of course, the Party for Socialism and Liberation. For those of you who don't know what PSL is, it's the Party for Socialism and Liberation. We reject any attempt to associate the PSL with the DC shooting. Elias Rodriguez is not a member of the PSL. He had a brief association with one branch of the PSL that ended in 2017. We know of no contact with him in over 7 years. We have nothing to do with this shooting and do not support it. So I think it's of course appropriate to say this. Like, it's appropriate for them to come out and say this. And that's also part of the reason why I talked to a bunch of my other friends as well this morning. Like, no person, especially no person like immediately affiliated with the Party for Socialism and Liberation, who are fantastic organizers overall, no organizer is going to do something like this. And no organizer is going to associate their organization with something like this, because organizers understand that this level of association with an act such as this one will be catnip for the federal government, who is already using every avenue they can to clamp down on free speech and free association. So before people get like in their feelings and go, what the I can't believe that they're saying this, like, don't be a moron. They're probably still going to aggressively come after PSL anyway. They're probably aggressively going to come after any and every pro-Palestinian person, myself included. They've already even started coming after myself, as far as I understand. It's pretty crazy. It's crazy times that we are a part of, but it is what it is. I'm going to keep saying the truth. If you think that I'm going to stop saying the truth about Israel, about what Israel is doing, which is a live-streamed child holocaust that Israel is committed to, and the only way that they are able to do this is by unlimited munitions that they get from the United States of America. If you think I'm going to stop talking about that, you are out of your mind. I think the real dangerous thing to do here is, if you are the president of a advocacy organization that is tasked with combating anti-Semitism, using that position of prominence at a time when anti-Semitism is skyrocketing to basically come after people that you don't like, people that you know are not anti-Semitic, in an effort to call for their deplatforming, is psychotic. And of course, that is what I'm going to talk about now as well. The head of the ADL directly blames Hassan the Hun for the DC shooting. The full force of the U.S. government is about to come down on him. When these things happen, politicians look for a scapegoat to show that they're doing something. Hassan will be that guy. To which I quote retweeted, I said, Israel's an apartheid state doing a live stream genocide. I think it's wrong and dangerous to conflate these heinous actions with Jews. The Apartheid Defense League doesn't, because they think they can improve Israel's standing by silencing its critics. It won't change the truth. That is one of the most insane things, by the way. One of the most insane things is, like, immediately after, like, the bodies haven't even gotten cold yet, and Jonathan Greenblatt goes on CNN to be like, you know who killed these people? Hassan played a big role in this. It's like, there is unprecedented amount of overt anti-Semitism out there, and this freak is looking to blame someone like myself for it. You are just such an unserious charlatan, dude. Quit, okay? Resign in disgrace. Disband the organization. Stop doing this.
But all of us need to call it out. I'm thinking about the New York Times doing a gauzy profile a few weeks ago of this gamer, Hasan Piker, who regularly employs awful genocidal rhetoric against Jewish people in the Jewish state. Like, extremists.
Like, that's so psychotic to say. No, I don't. Okay. No, I don't. Against Jewish people, genocidal rhetoric that I regularly apply. Also, gamer. I haven't played a video game in months. Utterly depraved shit, by the way. Utterly depraved shit. He's like, whoa, a shooting took place against people that worked at the Israeli embassy. Time to immediately make this about my favorite villain. Like, are you insane? Like, what are you doing? This is the reason why, for the record, nobody cares about what ADL says anymore. It's lost its institutional motion. And the reason why it's lost its institutional motion and prominence is because this is what Jonathan Greenblatt is busy with. Like, he already cooked the books so aggressively by expanding on the definition of anti-Semitic attacks and made it something so ridiculous at this point where someone says from the river to the sea, Palestine would be freed. That's logged as an anti-Semitic attack. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, you are out of your mind. Yeah. Also, simultaneously, while doing that, he's like running defense for the likes of Elon Musk with regular frequency, because Elon Musk is obviously pro-Israel and Elon Musk is part of the administration that's pro-Israel. I have always stood against anti-Semitism, even at times when the ADL did not. Okay? Suck my dick, you bald piece of shit. Anyway.
Should not be empowered. People who spout prejudice should not be platformed. This is a moment.
Yeah, he's like, please ban him. Please ban him. Just take my word for it. Please. He's anti-Semitic. I promise. He says genocidal things about Jewish people. What an insanely slanderous thing to say. You are supposed to be the guy. You are supposed to be the dude that knows what anti-Semitism looks like. Imagine dropping the ball this spectacularly. Like, listen to me. I don't even think I'm this relevant to the anti-Zionist cause, okay? He's so horny for deplatforming that this is like, I've become I've become this white whale that he's chasing down for some reason. Okay, let's say you pressure institutions hard enough that Twitch actually enforces some sort of ban, okay? And then what? I go on YouTube, I start my, I continue live streaming on YouTube. YouTube is not going to take these kinds of pressures seriously. It's just totally and utterly ridiculous because guess what? Even if I'm no longer on Twitch, even if I get banned on Twitch, you think that the overwhelming majority of Americans are going to turn around and be like, you know what? I think it was awesome that Israel has been doing this unlimited child holocaust for the past 19 months. I actually changed my mind because some random dumbass named Hasanabi got banned off Twitch. So I think my opinion on this has changed surely. Yeah. Now that this guy's gone from this one platform, okay? Now that we have banned this one guy from this one platform, I'm saying 10M Israel highs every morning, as a matter of fact. Like, is that how you think this is going to work? Like, what are you, stupid? Are you insane? It's just so stupid. The Anti-Defamation guy just defamed you. Yeah. No, it's the Always Defamation League. It's the Apartheid Defense League, or also known as the Always Defaming League. Anyway.
Moment when we need to look ourselves in the mirror and say, we've got to stop this because the consequences are deadly. But all of us need to call it out. I'm thinking about the New York Times.
They think you are much more important and prominent than you actually are. In a way, they're glazing you technically by hyping you up to this extent. I know. I think part of the reason why they're doing that is because I am one of the I am actively working against their best interests. If their goal is to make sure, on the one hand, continue brainwashing young Americans into being pro-Israel, specifically young American Jews into being pro-Israel, a guy who actively fights against anti-Semitism, who also is a hardline anti-Zionist, is a big threat. This is why I kept repeating over and over again, like, for these guys, they don't give a fuck about Candace Owens, because they can always point to Candace Owens and say, see, she's anti-Semitic. They can always point to someone like Dan Bilzerian and say, obviously, this guy is anti-Semitic. That's why he hates Israel. But for someone like myself, they have to stretch as hard as they can to be like, I promise you he's anti-Semitic. Just take my word for it. He's so anti-Semitic. Why is he anti-Semitic? Because he contextualizes how militant resistance exists against the apartheid state that has been doing an apartheid for 77 years and now doing a unlimited genocide. Like, that's the reason why I'm anti-Semitic. Most Americans agree with me. Shut the fuck up. But that's it. Let's see what the majority report said.
Who went on CNN and went after Hasan Piker, who, by the way, was just detained for his speech coming back into the country. This is absolutely despicable.
It's fascist.
But all of us need to call it out. I'm thinking about the New York Times doing a gauzy profile a few weeks ago of this gamer, Hasan Piker, who regularly employs awful genocidal rhetoric against Jewish people in the Jewish state.
That's a heinous smear. That's defamation.
I would sue over that if I was Hasan. That is 100% slanderous.
Go for it.
I know, but like, I don't think there's a court out there that will be favorable to my opinion here. You know what I mean? Also, once again, a costly endeavor that I do not want to engage with. I feel like it's a distraction.
He should. He's got money. He should sue him. Honestly,
be wonderful.
That is beyond what I was expecting. I had not seen that clip.
Well, they've shown. Sorry, Bender, I got heated.
No,
go on.
No, it's. I mean, that is a direct accusation of a very specific thing that Hasan has not done. And if I was Hasan, I would look into my legal rights here and go after them.
What is happening with Twitter, man? Work, Twitter. Work! Twitter. God damn it. F you,
John.
Twitter. F you. You are such a piece of shit website. I can't even watch this. Someone linked me the OG video with the time code. Someone is on the sideline waiting to make their bones from something like this. Keep that in mind. Yeah, also, I don't even think he just wants me to be deplatformed. I think, there are plenty of people out there at this point that would love if I didn't just get deplatformed, but got deplatformed from Earth at this point. At a certain point, taking legal action and slander defamation becomes important when it actually does impact your profile to a significant event. Is there a point where you would do this? Does Lolo know you are his client? Yes, he knows. I talked to him this morning. Anyway, he had this take. Violence begets violence. Palestinians have been getting massacred in an ongoing genocide for the last 18 months. 2 diplomats for Israel, 1 German and born and Christian, are assassinated clearly for political reasons, whether you agree or not. This is not anti-Semitism. Israel makes the world an unsafe place for Jewish people, not simply because of their decades of countless war crimes and crimes against humanity, but because Zionism itself aimed to conflate Jewishness with a fascist ethno-state. It may be the case these people were actively trying to find a solution for peace, which is very sad. But just like the indiscriminate killing in Gaza, where 80% of fatalities since March, as reported by the IDF itself, are civilian, that is an inevitable result of mass violence. Hold on. I will not stand here and say nothing when every media outlet and politician calls this anti-Semitic and tries to distract from the very serious and underlying reality here. Shame on you, charlatans and cowards. Sorry to chat about earlier. It wasn't an LGBTQ event. The museum was opening an exhibit on LGBTQ Jews soon, and the group of people I met at the police station were referencing that. Okay. You should sue, though, because your case is clear-cut, can provide precedent that other smaller creators could use for cover. Sure, you don't care, but what if they use the same heat later for Frogan or Dennis? Shouldn't you preempt that? I'll think about it. It is kind of wild that he got so horny that he just, hit me with a total textbook case of defamation. But I suspect that the ADL has incredible lawyers. You know what I mean?
Has not done. And if I was Hasan, I would look into my legal rights here and go after this guy and the organization he's speaking for, honestly.
The ADL has shown that they can be cowed by money. They accused, rightly, Elon Musk of anti-Semitism when he endorsed the Great Replacement theory on social media. Then, it's just like a little weird. Suddenly, they were really pro-Elon Musk.
Maybe less money and more just, oh, you're going to work with us because we're a fascist government doing fascism and you have the ear of the Americans.
I mean, I think that it could be a coincidence, but also Starling started to work with the Israeli government, and then what do you know? A year later, they're turning the other cheek when Elon Musk is endorsing the far-right German party that says that we should leave the Holocaust in the past and quit remembering, and then doing Nazi salutes at the inauguration, repeated, as AOC said at the time, for emphasis and clarity. They've shown that they can look the other way on that, but
Could we rewind a little bit just so I could fully hear exactly what he accused Hasan of doing? Because if he had claimed Hasan was sharing anti-Semitic rhetoric, that'd be a little bit harder to go after, because you could claim a lot of things are anti-Semitic. That's sort of in the eye of the beholder, right? But we have made clear. We have made it very clear over this past year, especially from people like him and the ADL, that accusing someone of genocide is a very specific framework. And for you to
that's what's so crazy. He's saying that I'm doing genocidal rhetoric against the Jews while his entire purpose is defending the state of Israel while Israel is doing a genocide. Like, my anti-genocide position, he claims, is a genocidal statement against all Jews. Like, what a psychotic thing to say. I can't wait for every single drama-loving slop tuber to also turn around and be like, this is Hasan. Hasan did this, for the record. Because I'm sure that's coming as well. Professional grade narcissism. Yeah.
Declare that someone is using genocidal rhetoric against a specific group of people, that is slander. And without a doubt, Hasan should go after them if that's indeed what he said, and I'm pretty sure he did.
Let's hear it.
But all of us need to call it out. I'm thinking about the New York Times doing a gauzy profile a few weeks ago of this gamer, Hasan Piker, who regularly employs awful genocidal rhetoric against Jewish people in the Jewish state. Like, extremists should not be empowered. People who spout prejudice should not be platformed. This is a moment when we need to look ourselves in the mirror and say, we've got to stop this because the consequences are deadly. But all of us need to call.
But I mean, do you see how he conflates like Jewish people broadly with a Jewish state, like the ethno-nationalist state of Israel? And to be fair, like he's doing just like we were talking about with the South Africans, right? He's trying to make their inability to hold control over a state, a piece of land, as an ethno-nationalist state. Because we know that a lot of people in Israel who are Zionists think that the one state solution, the state where they have equal representation for Palestinians, equal representation for Israel, is the genocide they're referring to. They're not referring to the total eradication of Israelis, Jewish Israelis by Arab. They're referring to a changing of the structure that prevents there from being an ethno-nationalist state, an apartheid state, which provides special rights for Israelis and that creates a permanent underclass of Palestinians. And unlike in the situation with the white South Africans, they are able to more readily reference and index the actual genocide that happened to Jewish people and cloak themselves in the veil of people who, are
Yeah, Randy Fine, by the way, in response to the killing of the Israeli embassy staff in Washington, a Republican congressman went on Fox News and suggested Gaza be nuked like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This is deemed an appropriate response to the killing of 2 Zionists. Then what is an appropriate response to the murders of tens of thousands of Palestinians? Zionists routinely call for genocide after experiencing a fraction of the violence they subject Palestinians to daily. Hasan gets targeted by shitlib and neo-Nazi slop tubers and communities for being anti-genocide. Now Hasan supposedly regularly employs genocidal rhetoric. Give me a break. Yeah. Yeah, this is basically, Adolf Hitler reincarnated.
The fact of the matter is the Palestinian cause is an evil one.
Yeah, and Congressman, there is a ceasefire deal on the table right now that the White House is hoping both Israel and Hamas will sign on to. Does this shooting change anything when it comes to the course of the war or the negotiations to end it?
Well, I think it speaks to the importance of the only end of the conflict is complete and total surrender by those who support Muslim terror. In World War II, we did not negotiate a surrender with the Nazis. We did not negotiate a surrender with the Japanese. We nuked the Japanese twice in order to get unconditional surrender. That needs to be the same here. There is something deeply, deeply wrong with this culture, and it needs to be defeated.
We heard in Brooks.
The fact of the matter.
Freak, dude. Absolute freak. I do want to explain something to people, okay? I want to explain something to people. First of all, the edits on this was so damaging, okay? First of all, J.D. Vance comes in hot. My heart breaks for the 2 Jews who were murdered last night at the Capitol Jewish Museum. Anti-Semitic violence has no place in the United States. We're praying for their families and our friends at the Israeli embassy where the 2 victims work. Then he gets corrected. He goes, my heart breaks for Sarah Milgram and Yaron Lishinsky, who were murdered last night at the Capitol Jewish Museum. Anti-Semitic violence has no place in the United States. We're praying for their families and all of our friends at the Israeli embassy. Okay? Now, the thing is like, I want to make a comparison here to something important, okay? This is something that I've noticed and something that I've talked about, okay? Something that I've noticed and something that I've talked about is that in the United States of America, our interests are so invested in simply defending Israel, whatever violent form Israel takes, defending that unconditionally, that those who also defend Israel are considered a part of the in-group of being Jewish. You are more a Jew, even if you are Christian, even if you're a German Christian, you are more of a Jew in the eyes of all of these people that love Israel. Remember, way more Christian Zionists out there than there are Jewish Zionists. Important to recognize. But you are seen as more of a Jewish person than an Israeli Jew that got beat up by Kahanists in Brooklyn 2 weeks ago when not a single peep was made by mainstream media. That was an Israeli Jewish woman that got beat up by rabid, sociopathic Kahanist terrorists on Brooklyn streets. And not a single peep was made by mainstream media, despite the fact that she was literally a person who has an Israeli passport. Why? Because she was an anti-Zionist. Okay? If you are a Jew and anti-Zionist, you're no longer a Jew in the eyes of those who want to make a statement about Israel. And if you're not Jewish, but you work for Israel, if you're not Jewish and you literally go and you serve in the IDF, you are more of a Jewish person in the eyes of the media than someone who literally is an anti-Zionist Jew with an Israeli passport. It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Clearly, these don't give a shit about anti-Semitism, okay? They don't care. Like, what are we doing? What the are we doing here? And the dangerous underlying premise there is you're not a Jewish person if you're not pro-Israel, okay? The dangerous underlying premise here is the notion, the false notion that all Jews are monolithic and love Israel and love the child murder that Israel is doing. They are fully on board. It's like literally offensively saying, if you don't like ISIS, you're Islamophobic. It blows my mind. And the people that present this argument are so brain broken. They're so oblivious to how much resentment has calcified against Israel for good reason that they don't realize that they are serving an anti-Semitic purpose when they behave like this, when they literally make blood libel the reality in the eyes of so many people that are uninitiated, that don't really think about these things at all. They don't recognize what they're doing in terms of manifesting more anti-Semitic thought. They realize, don't be ridiculous. No, they don't. Plenty of people don't realize what they're doing. I promise you they don't. Because at the end of the day, you think liberal Zionist Jews that live in the United States of America are seeing the mountainous wave of anti-Semitism that will inevitably fire on them? Do you think? No, they don't realize it. They don't. They don't realize it at all. The Israeli government doesn't give a shit. Israeli government relies, like Zionists in Israel rely on this kind of anti-Semitic sentiment exploding in the Western world. This way, you have to go and defend, even if you're a Jew living in diaspora, you have to defend Israel. You have to fight for Israel because there's no other country that will save you. See, the Holocaust will happen. Look at all this anti-Semitism that's like exploding, right? That is the attitude that like the Israeli government broadly has. They don't mind anti-Semitism existing in the West. They actually benefit from it. Is this going to lead to a crystal knock? And if yes, why? I don't think so. I don't think this is... Obviously, it's affecting you, so it's not like anyone else is saying this, but it might be a good idea to slow your talking down just a little bit so you can catch something that'll clip before it actually gets clipped, especially if you're going to become a regular topic of the news law. But again, yeah, it's fine. I always stand with the Jewish community and every minority community. Just don't stand with the Israeli government, and I wish you'd stop conflating the two. Also, aren't you the guy who compared photo inverse young Jewish peace activists to far-right white supremacists? Also, you seem to always be keen to bash brown public Muslims on this platform, but I never see your snarky or critical quote tweets against openly anti-Semitic GOP politicians. Funny that. Yeah. He's duking it out. Jonathan is online. He's duking it out with Mehdi Hasan. Just like, look, I'll tell you the short-sightedness of this kind of sentiment. October 7 is a great example of the short-sightedness of this, okay? Because here's why October 7 is a great example of the short-sightedness of this kind of attitude. It's like a different version of it. You think if you're an Israeli official like Benjamin Netanyahu or numerous other Israeli officials that have propped up Hamas because they're like, well, these guys are Islamist and they will not be able to garner support in the Western world in the same way that like a Ghassan Kanafani could, you know, in the same way that like secular or socialist Palestinian revolutionaries would be able to, right? I can't like his tweets. Did he just get banned? No one is banned. The platform is broken. Calm the down, okay? It's just, look, it's broken. Twitter is broken. Twitter is just shitting the bed, as always. Milking for all it's worth. Disgusting. Good Lord, this is broken record. How many years deep at this point? Just fix the problem. Twitch rants don't count. No, it's not fine. What are you saying? You're mad at me? What do you want me to do? Like, oh, I'm sorry that prominent like advocacy institutions are trying to get me deplatformed. My bad, dude. Anyway. All right, let's just get back to the news coverage over it, okay? Let's just see what else the response is.
Anything about Elias Rodriguez? We expect to hear from law enforcement again later this morning, Gail.
Boy, Scott, thank you very much.
Sarah Milgram and Yaron Lashinsky were a young couple who worked at the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. Just yesterday morning, a colleague said, "We were still laughing together by the coffee corner."
For the record, I think my Twitter account is, my Twitter desktop is like busted. That's it. That's the only thing that's like busted. It's not, my Twitter on my phone is fine.
Now all that remains is a picture. The couple were at an event last night at the Capitol Jewish Museum, right in the heart of D.C. They left the building around 9 p.m. and was shot at close range by a man who lay in wait. Police said the gunman had been seen pacing back and forth outside the building, then approached a group of 4 people as they left, pulled out a handgun and shot 2 of them. Police have identified the suspect as 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez from Chicago. After the shooting, he entered the building, and at first, witnesses said he appeared distressed and gave him water.
The security guard happened to let this guy in. I guess they were thinking that he was a victim. So about 10 minutes later, when the cops actually came in, he said, "I did this." He said, "Sir, I'm unarmed." He put his hands up.
And then he reaches into his bag and pulls out a keffiyeh and says, "I did it. I did this for Gaza."
That traditional keffiyeh scarf to show solidarity with the people of Gaza was handed to police as the suspect was taken in.
Like, either this is an adventurist who thought that he would get like Luigi Mangione level prominence off of this or something, or just a dude who thought that this was the best possible thing to do. But like the I'm not Mr. False Flag at all, but like every single thing that he did in the aftermath of the shooting is so crazy that it's like you could not have designed a incident like this. You could not have designed a better false flag incident like this. I'm not saying it is a false flag incident at all. I'm not saying that. I think this is just a one dude who is genuine in his actions and maybe, you know, a little bit brain broken. Okay. But it is crazy. This was legit the worst thing that could happen to the movement. No, it's not. And you guys need to stop doing that. That's another thing that I don't like either. Okay. Stop. Have some conviction. Okay. Have conviction. Assume that your fellow man is not like a brain broken child. Okay. I ask you, does this change what Israel is doing on the ground in Gaza? Does this change the dynamic of what Israel is doing on the ground, which is an ethnic cleansing campaign? If the answer to that is no, then stop leaning into a nihilistic attitude. Stop leaning into a pessimistic attitude. Okay? It is ridiculous. I have one of the most prominent apartheid defense institutions in the United States of America actively calling for my deplatforming while calling me falsely a person who entertains or traffics in genocidal sentiment about Jews. That is an insane, slanderous statement to make. And you don't see me backing away from my commentary, speaking on the atrocities that are unfolding. So why the do you get afraid? If you think that that the like if you just go along with this and start the process on conceding to power without, you know, ever even like conceding ahead of time to power, then yeah, the goal is accomplished here.
Into custody and appeared to make his motivation clear.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
I can't get over the guys in there being like from Hamas. That's crazy.
Organisers said the event had been about humanitarian aid and trying to bring both sides together. Now a cold-blooded murder in the heart of Washington, D.C. has left the Jewish community in fear.
This thing is, I think, going to shake the whole community. Right now, it's like every trauma. It's a shock. Never seen this before. 2 Jews shot dead in the street in Washington, D.C., just like that. But we'll have to...
I think the ADL is relatively niche. The claims made by them and you is pretty sideline stuff, no offense. I think the main issue here is the mainstream media coverage on this. False flag or not, this immensely bad press, similar to Lake and Riley. It will be used to clamp down any Palestine speech. I know that this will be used to clamp down on Palestine speech. It is up to us, people like myself with the platform and people like you that will go out and protest against that. That's the whole point that I'm trying to make here. Don't entertain these notions ahead of time. That's the... Like, what do you... there is no reason to be like, wow, I guess, like, we should just give up. I guess we should just, like, stop protesting. You know what I mean? Let's obey in advance. This seems good. 2 Jews. I thought one of them was a Christian. Yes, he is. He was a German Christian.
Process this. We'll have to come together as a community and be resilient, strong, and overcome the challenge.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the killing appalling anti-Semitic murder, while his foreign minister blamed critics of the Israeli government who he said incited the violence.
There is a direct line connecting anti-Semitic and anti-Israeli incitement to this murder. This incitement is also done by leaders and officials of many countries and international organizations.
Yeah. Like, exactly. No, this is the same as France being like, hey, we're not going to do a free trade agreement with you if you keep doing your endless child killing. This is the same as when the UK, which has contributed to the death and destruction directly with its surveillance missions that it does for Israel, okay, on the Gaza Strip, when they turn around and say, hey, I think you've killed one too many babies, we are going to reconsider our free trade agreement in the future. Like, not the existing relationship that we have, but the future relationship we might have with you in terms of free trade. Maybe we're not going to do that. That is the responsible party here. Everyone and anyone that has ever said anything against Israel is actually responsible for this. Get the out of here. This is such cynical propaganda. Who is responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands of Palestinian children? No one, because Israel is a natural disaster. You must understand, it had to do this. What else could it have done after October 7? Because never forget, nothing justifies October 7, and everything Israel does is justified because of October 7. That's the argument here. And this only works if you don't think the Palestinians that are victim to Israel's ethnic cleansing campaign are human beings. And many people seemingly don't care about this. They don't actually see that. So instead of worrying about what the people are doing, instead of like entertaining the emotional blackmail that cynically is being applied by the State of Israel Ministry of Foreign Affairs, okay? Instead of entertaining these like cynical attempts at emotional blackmail from the state that is a Nazi state doing a genocide, just shut the up and get to work, okay? Keep protesting and don't stop the goddamn pressure, especially when this is perhaps one of the first instances where there are plenty of foreign leaders in the West that have actually taken action against Israel, albeit optically, but still, it's not insignificant. Also, the event wasn't about humanitarian aid or bringing Israelis and Palestinians together. Channel 4 is just lying. I know.
Especially from Europe.
This week, Keir Starmer said he was horrified by Israel's escalation of the war in Gaza.
Where the level of suffering, innocent children being bombed again, is utterly intolerable.
But today, he too condemned the attack as anti-Semitic and evil. Today, the FBI raided the home in Chicago where the suspect Elias Rodriguez is believed to live. He wasn't on any police watch list, but he was.
It's also extra crazy. Again, it's extra nutty. Like, dude. One of the first victims post-October 7 in the Western world was a 7-year-old child, okay, that got stabbed to death by his landlord. Like, nobody gives a when Muslim kids, babies are murdered, okay? Nobody cares. Nobody cares about Islamophobia, not even a little bit. Like, what are we talking about here, dude? It's crazy. Zionists killed a 6-year-old Palestinian kid in the suburbs of Chicago. 3 Arab Americans wearing keffiyehs were shot in Boston and are now wheelchair bound for life. Now we will observe how they assign different values to human lives and apply the label of terrorism selectively. Like, think about the universal condemnation. Not my expectation isn't that like people aren't going to condemn this. Of course, murder in the middle of the night. Okay, obviously in the like right steps away from the White House. Like, yeah, of course, it is worthy of condemnation from politicians, especially. It's just that it is not even remotely comparable. Not even like when Muslims or Arabs are murdered or are victims of hate crimes, it does not get elevated to this status at all. Okay? It does not ever get elevated to the status at all. And not only that, but the reason why I'm bringing this up is specifically because we're talking about Islamophobia. We're talking about Islamophobia in the Western world. This is before we even talk about what Israel is doing, because Israel is a criminal entity, okay? That's it. And defenders of Israel, no matter where they are, no matter what their background is, are defending a Nazi state doing a live-streamed Holocaust. This is the reality. Anyone that tries to move the attention away from said reality, is just delusional or cynical. That is the main problem. Yeah, it wasn't Boston. It was Burlington is where the 3 kids wearing a keffiyeh were shot. Yeah, and here, this is the expectation that these people are actually important or noteworthy is gone. 61 martyrs as a result of Israeli airstrikes on the Gaza Strip since dawn today. The names of 2 Israeli embassy staff are all over the global media, where you won't find the names of any of the 61 people counting and killed by the Israeli army today. Those people also had dreams. Those people that were killed were also human beings. Those people also probably wanted to maybe one day get engaged to their fiance. They had girlfriends and boyfriends. They had mothers. They had fathers. They had their favorite books. But we don't even think about that. Because there is no parity here with the humanity. Palestinians are never treated as humans. A single death is a tragedy. 1 million deaths is a statistic. And this is precisely how Israel operates. Yeah. And yes, I saw his account. His last retweet was literally denying the famine that was taking place in Gaza. This doesn't mean like, I'm not saying like, oh, it's justified, whatever. That's not my point. But understand that that the hyper focus on this, or the attention being placed on this, is very cynical. It's not because these guys are pacifists, okay? They're not. They're not pacifists. They're not humanists. They simply want to defend Israel, and they will use any victim to push for that cause. What a lot of Israel defenders are doing is just trying to. What a lot of Israel defenders are doing in this circumstance is just basically trying to engage in emotional blackmail, but also simultaneously demand deplatforming of anyone and everyone that has ever said anything negative about Israel. This is a state, okay? A state represents a political ideology. A state is comprised of individuals. A state is not a representation of religion, okay? ISIS is not representative of Islam, neither is Saudi Arabia representative of Islam. And Israel is not representative of Judaism.
Was once a member of a left-wing group known for sharing anti-Israeli rhetoric, and posted a manifesto on X last night condemning Israel and referring to an...
Yeah, he defended the murder of the Red Cross workers, celebrated the murder of Hassam. Like, of course he did. He works for the Israeli embassy. He is... The dude that died is literally... this is... The dude that died was demonstrated in the classic case of the zealotry of a convert. Okay, zealotry of the revert. He's basically, if roles were reversed, he would be treated, if this wasn't about Israel and if Judaism was not applied as like a defensive shield here, you would look at him like Johnny Jihad. You know what I mean? Like the classic like Salafist white guy who reverts to Islam and then goes and joins ISIS. Okay, that's what he did. That was his. Be careful with using the post facto uncovered posts of the victims in any way, even if you say it's not a justification. There's zero evidence the shooter knew the people. Yeah, no, I know that. It's not a part of this calculation at all. I don't know what the shooter's calculation is. I suspect that he saw that it was a diplomat event and was like, maybe I'll be able to get a Israeli diplomat here. Okay. That was his goal. That was ultimately his goal. This is adventurism regardless. It's not a way to build a cohesive movement, a coherent movement. That's why I'm while Channel 4 is actively trying to bring this back to like PSL, for example, no organizer would ever do such a thing. Okay? No organizer would ever do such a thing. I'm simply talking about the difference between like this and Luigi Mangione, for example, and also simultaneously talking about the media narratives and what trappings not to fall into.
Armed act that was apparently about to happen. In the early hours, President Trump said the killings were obviously anti-Semitism, and hatred and radicalism, he said, have no place in the USA. While his Attorney General visited the scene this morning.
What we saw last night was disgusting. I saw a young man's body being taken away who was about to get engaged. He had an entire life in front of him, and that was taken away. The hate has got to stop, and it has to stop now. And this person will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
As she spoke, officials were conducting the Jewish ritual of painstakingly clearing the site where the couple perished. A couple that were due to travel to Jerusalem to get engaged next week. The gold ring already bought by 30-year-old Yaron for his 26-year-old fiancé.
I'm gonna cover the manifesto as well, because King Klippenstein posted the manifesto. Don't worry.
To be Sarah. Now both their young lives taken in a seemingly never-ending cycle of hatred and violence. Well, that corner behind me that you can see there is the exact spot where the young couple were killed last night. And in the last...
Yeah, people forget that Israel targeted a diplomatic Iranian consulate and killed a whopping 16 people. In fact, the New York Times tried to justify it. Exactly. Israel bombed an Iranian embassy complex. Is that allowed? Israel gets to do whatever the f*** it wants, especially over there. Israel could probably do whatever the f*** it wants even over here, but that's a totally separate question. That's a totally separate dynamic. But just make no mistake, yes, Israel is an extension of the United States empire, and they get to do whatever the f*** they want because it's a continuation of what America is doing. Okay? Yeah, Krang made the same point here as well. Where is it? Compare the media's reaction to 2 Israeli embassy workers being murdered last night to the reaction when Israel literally bombed an embassy last year, killing all 16 workers inside. The contrast will be striking. To be clear, killing embassy workers or civilians of any kind is evil. It's evil when it's done to Israel. It's evil when it's done by Israel. I wonder if supporters of Israel agree with me on that. No, of course they don't. And they don't have to. That's the problem. Just like they will always say, oh, do you condemn October 7? Do you condemn Hamas? Do you condemn Hamas? But no one has ever entertained about being... No one is ever asked to condemn Israel. There will come a day when those condemnations will come. I don't know which, I don't know how, I don't know what kind of framework those condemnations will come through. But of course, immediately people start talking about, it's scary being an American Jew right now. We go to synagogues that are fortified with armed guards and police. Kids go to schools that have layers of security. Campuses and cities are filled with anti-Semitism. This is the world I grew up in. It's disgusting and disheartening. This is Jake Sherman from NBC News. This isn't the world I grew up in. It's disgusting and disheartening. I don't know how it will end. To which Noah Colwyn, friend of the show, responds, it's not scary being a U.S. Jew right now. We have more privilege and physical security than most of the world has ever known. Talk like this is ridiculous and only makes sense if you ignore the genocide that Netanyahu, the guy Jake fawningly interviewed last year, is overseeing. I think if Jake Sherman really cares about anti-Semitism, then he should consider what it means to suggest the fate of American Jews in the hands of how people respond to Israeli policy. It is this conflation that is deadly, and it is deadly for people who aren't me or Jake. Yeah, also, Noah's dad is a rabbi, for the record. My father is a rabbi. I go to services regularly, and there has been a police presence in synagogues I've been at my whole life. It's crazy how everyone asks for my Jew card instead of responds to the content of my argument. When's the last time you walked through a synagogue or for services, Noah? Did it feel normal to have to walk through a metal detector? To be fair, one of the differences between our side and their side is that our side values moral consistency while theirs don't, so it doesn't behoove us to slide to their level of moral inconsistency, which is why I don't think these deaths should be justified in any way if you're a true leftist. No, I'm not. I'm not justifying it anyway. I'm invested in the cynical ways in which the media is using this as an opportunity, giving it any oxygen beyond like this is pure adventurist. This is a pure act of adventurism is ridiculous. And no, Megaphonics is not saying that I'm justifying it. It is important, however, to understand the context in which these kinds of acts take place. Okay? Because this person is not a Nazi. Because in previous circumstances, if we are talking about anti-Semitic incidents like the synagogue shooting, right? That's a Nazi. That's a neo-Nazi that has been radicalized into assuming that all of societal's ails are directly the responsibility of a select few Jewish people, okay? That person believed the Great Replacement theory, the idea that Jews were actually importing the third world into the United States of America, a dangerous fascist theory that is trafficked by the likes of Donald Trump and Tucker Carlson with regular frequency with no contest, right? That led to the synagogue shooting. This person, on the other hand, is acting out in a violent manner, in an illegal and violent manner against who he perceived who he perceived to be responsible for Israel's crimes. Is this wrong? Sure, it is, okay? Because I don't know what he knew. I have no idea. We'll find out, okay? But I'm sure that my initial speculation is that he goes to this event. He's like, oh, it's an Israeli diplomats event. I'm sure there will be Israeli diplomats there, okay? It's important to understand. It's important to understand the context in which this kind of violence is manifesting. Just like it's important to understand what those who are invested in defending Israel are using this to say. And they are using this as an opportunity to go back to a permanent victimhood cycle for poor Israel, the Israeli state, and its defenders. Okay? I am not in the business of vigilante justice. Having said that, it's important to understand where this resentment is coming from. I'm in the business of real justice. Real justice means that the legal bodies, the international governing bodies, put an end to this Holocaust. Okay? That's it. It is ridiculous. Israeli officials are immediately honing in on the angle that campus protests for Gaza organized by terrorists were directly responsible for the killing of 2 Israeli embassy staffers tonight. Yeah. The government will most likely use this as an opportunity, potentially. I don't know. I'm saying most likely the government will use this. The federal government will use this as an opportunity to go after PSL and to go after any kind of organizing that takes place against Israel in this country. It's very clear that they are interested in this anyway. Israel in New York says, we are devastated by the horrific act of violence that occurred this evening at a Jewish event at a Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C., where 2 staff members of the Israeli embassy were shot at close range. Consul General in New York, Akunis. This is a direct result of severe incitement and unprecedented riots organized by terrorists on U.S. campuses. Unfortunately, there were those who listened to the calls of intifada, even here. Right-wingers always understand stochastic terrorism only when they can appropriate it for bullshit narratives. Yes. Netanyahu just claimed Free Palestine is a Nazi slogan. Are you afraid the feds are going to come after you? You guys need to stop centering me in this discourse, okay? You need to stop centering me in this discourse. What we have seen tonight is the outcome of incitement on campus, as Danny Danon. I expect that the authorities will take strong measures, also against those who incite violence against Jews, against the state of Israel. Violence against Jews is very different than violence against the state of Israel. What do you mean violence against the state of Israel? What is violence against the state of Israel? Like, what the are you saying? New York Times insinuates the couple was pro-Palestine. The woman's family is anti-Trump. Interesting. They were days away from getting engaged. Then they were killed in D.C. Also, what do you mean they were pro-Palestine? They were getting married in Jerusalem. He wanted to propose to her in Jerusalem. They work for the Israeli embassy. I'm sorry. That's insane. It's just, again, propaganda.
Last half hour or so, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel has appeared on television and given a very angry, fiery statement in which he has lambasted international leaders, including Sir Keir Starmer, for their criticism of Israel this week, and said to them in line...
Yeah, this is why it was important to see this person's background, for the record. For those of you who are asking why you say this, like why you show this, I'm showing this because they're doing this, okay? They're doing this. The New York Times is doing this. So I need you to understand that that is a lie, okay? A person that works in the Israeli embassy is most likely not pro-Palestine, okay? I don't think that's an unfair assessment to make. Not talking about like the shooter's motives here, okay? But you are out of your mind. Like, what the do you mean? Contrary to bogus claims of the UN, there is enough food in Gaza for a long period of time if Hamas lets civilians have it. The IDF did not randomly attack an ambulance on March 23rd. Let me walk through what happened step by step. Over 6 months ago, Hossam Basel Abdul Karim Shabbat's role within the Hamas terrorist organization was exposed here. The ICC is utterly corrupt and worthy of contempt. Confirming what we knew all along, Hamas embeds itself along Gaza civilians. Hospitals are not off limits. Like, what the reason why the New York Times is saying that This is what I was talking about earlier, man. What good is showing any of this? Megaphonics, do you not understand? I'm saying this has nothing to do with the shooter's motives and everything to do with disparaging what the New York Times propaganda is. Listen to my words. I just told you. The New York Times is making it seem as though these guys were on a pathway to forging peace and they were real humanitarians in an effort to present a false narrative. That's it. I'm not saying that the shooter was aware of any of this. And even if he was aware of this, like, does that justify it? You know? I do understand. I'm not saying we do character rehab. I'm just saying it has no relation to their victimhood. No, I don't disagree with you. I'm simply stating that the reason why I'm mentioning this is because the New York Times' coverage on it is lying. Okay? A big part of what I do here, as you know, is to go through media narratives on any event and how they present, how they structure a narrative. Did they catch a shooter? Yes, he gave himself up and then said, free, free Palestine. In any case, after this coverage is done, we'll get to, after this coverage is done, we'll get to the shooter's motives.
Of what happened here last night, that they were now on the wrong side of history. Let's hear a clip from the Prime Minister now.
They want Israel to stand down and accept that Hamas's army of mass murderers will survive, rebuild, and repeat the October 7th massacre again and again and again, because that's what Hamas has vowed to do.
Okay, dude.
I say to President Macron, Prime Minister Carney, and Prime Minister Starmer, when mass murderers, rapists, baby killers, and kidnappers thank you.
Bro, that's you, though. Like, that's literally you and the Israeli forces 1,000,000 times over. With Hamas, the evidence that there was like systematic and directed mass rapes that took place on October 7 or beyond is there's no evidence to suggest that at all, right? This isn't to say that there was no sexual violence that has taken place in captivity or even on October 7, except even for the evidence of that, their own prosecutors are having a hard time prosecuting this stuff. It's crazy because the amount of evidence, like, there's video footage. There's video footage of Israeli occupying force concentration camp guards raping Palestinians. There was a pro-rape riot. What the do you mean? People like Netanyahu and those who defend Israel simply rely on people not knowing the truth about what goes on in Israel. That's it.
You're on the wrong side of justice. You're on the wrong side of humanity. And you're on the wrong side of history.
Well, we were also here earlier when the Israeli ambassador came to visit the scene, and we asked him that given the event in that building there last night was all about bridging the divide and about humanitarian...
Oh my God, dude, shut the oh my God. It's always like these are the peacekeepers, you know? These were the guys who were they were just on the verge. They were just on the verge of actually finding a solution to Israel's ethnic cleansing campaign. The Israeli diplomats event was just on the verge of finding a solution to Benjamin Netanyahu's final solution that he has openly stated his desires for. This is Channel 4. And Channel 4 normally is probably one of the most like critical in the Western press out of all of the outlets that are critical, or out of all the outlets that cover anything that Israel does. Channel 4 is usually one of the most critical. Okay, and it's clear that this kind of victimhood narrative for the Israeli state is very effective. Not to say the victimhood narrative for the people that died, okay? But like, it's very clear that they're not just saying like, look, this is an act of violence. It's born out of the anger and resentment that a lot of people feel. It's, you could say it's unjustifiable, all of that. but then simultaneously refuse to reset your coverage on the children that are being slaughtered by Israel every day. It is ridiculous.
Aid was now the time.
But yeah, this is precisely the reason why it's important for people to understand that, like, this isn't a justification of the shooter, but it's important to cut through that media narrative of like, these guys were just invested in building bridges. Like, get the out of here. Get the out of here. I mean, look, if you're going to lie about it, I have to correct the record. You know what I mean?
For Israel to really knuckle down.
Like, for example, people are like, oh, this person was Jewish and he was killed for being Jewish or whatever the like, no, he wasn't. He was not Jewish. He was a German Christian. Okay.
And try and get a ceasefire. He told us pointedly that Israel was always looking for a ceasefire and said that they were tired of what he called the obsessive barrage of criticism against his country. As for the suspect, he is due to appear in court later today, and the White House has just promised that he will be punished, they say, to the full extent of the law.
Siobhan, thank you very much indeed there from Washington. Well, before Prime Minister Netanyahu...
Yeah, his dad was Jewish, his mom was Christian, a practicing evangelical. Yeah, and I think he's like now, he was like on the process of potentially converting to Judaism or something. I don't fully understand the details.
His statement. I spoke to Labour peer Lord Levy, a leading voice in the British Jewish community. His cousin Emily Damari was taken hostage by Hamas on October the 7th and released this January. He has condemned the Israeli government's assault on Gaza and has come out in support of the British government's move to suspend trade talks with Israel. I asked him if, as a member of the Jewish community, he feels increasingly unsafe.
To wake up, as I did this morning, and see a tragedy of two very wonderful young lives being taken in such horrific circumstances in Washington, I mean, one just has to pinch oneself as to what is going on in the world. It's absolutely horrendous. Two innocent lives just taken in cold blood like that. And you ask the question about safety and security. We're in a very unsafe world, and security has to be a concern for all of us, no matter who we are. But particularly if we are of the Jewish faith, if we're openly Jewish, and frankly, known to be Jewish.
The Israeli government, various members of the Israeli government have responded to the events in Washington in a number of ways. But essentially what they're all trying to do, and I'll read out a couple of quotes in a minute, is to link criticism of Israel and Israeli policy in the war against Hamas.
I think a big part of the reason why they're relegating this back, like the responsibility of this back, to the victims being Jewish or the event being like a peace event or any number of different things, is because they don't want to say this guy is pissed off about Israel's genocide and engaged in an act of vigilante justice, because if they were to say that truthfully, that narrative would not benefit Israel, because that narrative, which is the truth, by the way, whether you think it's justifiable or not, does not matter. That is just the truth. Okay, this isn't to say that what he did was justifiable or awesome at all. I'm not saying that at all. However, that is the reasoning. And there's a reason why the media doesn't want to say that that is the reasoning. The reason why the media doesn't want to say that that is the reasoning is because that narrative would not actually translate in any meaningful capacity to defense of Israel. Okay, it wouldn't. It would not be useful to Israel's interests. Okay? You are too far gone. I'm out. See, this is what I mean. Do you want me to lie to you? Do you want me to say that this was a person that was a neo-Nazi that like just hates Jews and went and looked after and went and found Jews and was like, I'm going to kill some Jews? Like, you think that was the goal here? I mean, he has a manifesto. We're going to read it in a second. Like oh my God. It is important to identify why these kinds of events happen if you don't want it to happen in the future. Okay?
Hamas in Gaza with this attack. The Minister for Diaspora Affairs has directly named Keir Starmer, Emmanuel Macron and Mark Carney for their criticism of Israel and said that if they hadn't criticized, more or less, if they hadn't criticized Israel in this way, these attacks might not have happened. Do you think that's a fair point to be made by the Israeli government?
Frankly, for him to say what he said is absolutely outrageous. To blame Prime Minister Starmer, President Macron, and Prime Minister Carney, these three who are absolutely wanting peace. But then you take the other side of the coin, and Yair Golan has said what Netanyahu and his government are doing, they, because of what is going on in Gaza, are, unfortunately, they are the catalyst for what happened and what is going on.
I mean, the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, without naming Keir Starmer or Emmanuel Macron, essentially said that criticism of Israel at the moment is tantamount to a blood libel that leads to these kind of attacks. This is the head of the government making...
Yeah, like, come on. What are we doing here? What the f are we doing here? Like, oh, it's blood libel to say the truth about what Israel is doing because Israel has packaged everything it's doing with Judaism. No, dude, I think it's blood libel to be like Israel is doing a ethnic cleansing at the behest of Judaism. I think that's the real blood libel. But the unfortunate reality is that mainstream discourse never actually hones in on this insane thing. That's the actual anti-Semitism. That is how you make Jews less safe all around the world.
The same point.
Netanyahu's game is always to go on the attack. It doesn't matter who he attacks, as long as he tries to prove that he is right. And again, for him to criticize like that and use that sort of vocabulary, that to me is extreme. And it just saddens me, Matt, that we're in this position, that a prime minister can say these things.
What's the difference between him and Luigi? I mean, the immediate difference between him and Luigi is that he went after... Like, his targeting, I don't think, is the same as Luigi. Luigi killed the CEO of United Healthcare. This guy camped outside of an event with Israeli diplomats inside. Like, it's like if Luigi Mangione, allegedly, Luigi Mangione did this, okay? Allegedly, Luigi Mangione did this, okay? But it's like, this would be if Luigi Mangione allegedly, camped outside of the event that he was camping outside of, was like some low-level accountant that works for United Healthcare. You know what I mean? Do they bear some responsibility for the acts of United Healthcare? Certainly. But don't you recognize both are vigilante acts, right? Both are vigilante acts. But don't you feel like there's a difference there? In terms of like how quickly people understood what the was going on with United Healthcare CEO versus, the narratives that are forming around this now. No, it's not, dude. What the dude was an iOS soldier. I understand that. But you also have to, again, try to comprehend the attitude of the Westerners that are like, if your goal is to make an argument, okay? And if you are asking me what the differences are, once again, there's a big difference between Luigi Mangione in this circumstance, and the circumstance is that these are low-level embassy workers. And you also have to contend with how people actually analyze the situation. That's it.
He's the Prime Minister of Israel. Let him look in the mirror. Let him see what he's done over this last period of time, and then perhaps let him reflect.
I guess the bigger point here is that ever since October the 7th and the massacre...
the shooter didn't know that, and the woman wasn't a soldier. Lamont, what, chat, chill? I mean, chat is not going to chill on this, but chat should chill on this, especially considering the extra attention that I have and this community has today, okay? Everything you say in this chat today will be used against me, will be used against, like, the pro-Palestine movement. It will be used as evidence for deplatforming because a lot of these guys don't give a about what took place last night beyond how much they can use this as a mechanism for deplatforming pro-Palestinian voices. Okay?
Hamas, in which your own cousin was caught up in. She was a hostage, released recently, Emily Damari. But ever since then, the Israeli government has been very clear that criticism of its policies, criticism of it, is tantamount to anti-Semitism or anti-Zionism. And do you think it is possible to criticize the government of Israel without being anti-Semitic?
Of course one can be critical of a government. Of course one can be critical.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. You know? I love when people say, like, of course one can be critical of the Israeli government, except in most circumstances where one is critical of the Israeli government, I will say that they are being anti-Semitic regardless. You know, you can be critical of the Israeli government if you dare. If you dare. And if you're critical of the Israeli government, it must be within the neat little confines that I decide. I saw someone saying the shooter was your fan before you even went live. Yeah, I know, except the shooter, it doesn't even follow me. So, fun little connection for a lot of opportunists here to, again, try to desperately what the f is this? Look for a way to deplatform a prominent pro-Palestinian voice. Yeah. And Israel high, of course.
Critical of Israel. Israelis are critical of their government. Israelis are critical of things that are going on in Israel. Does that make someone who's critical of something that's going on in Israel an anti-Semite? Absolutely not. If you're critical of this government in this country, does that mean you're anti-British or you're against the country? No, it means you're critical of a stand the government is taking.
You work very closely with the Blair government. You work very closely, with the incredible tangle of Middle Eastern politics to try and, help bring about some kind of solution there. Do you think it is time for this government now, the government of Sir Keir Starmer, to recognize the Palestinian state?
Ultimately, should there be a Palestinian state? Yes, there should be. On what terms should it be? On what basis should it be? That is a very complicated subject.
Oh.
But certainly when I was doing what I was doing as Blair's envoy, there was absolute serious talk about the possibility of a two-state solution, i.e. for there to be a state of Palestine.
Dude.
And if there can be a way forward where Israel can live side by side with a Palestinian.
I didn't realize it was complicated. My bad, dude. We already talked about this. This is what the conflation of anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism has wrought. Media and political elites unable to evaluate how they might have brought the genocide home, just circling the wagons, a symphony of self-pity with no real answer to why this happened. You never know that the American Jewish Committee has been an enthusiastic supporter of the genocide based on today's responses and accomplice to mass murder, says Noah Culwin. Yeah, two-state solution in 2025 is crazy when Israel has literally, when Israel has literally completely destroyed any sort of notion of any statehood for the Palestinians, and also the Israeli leadership is openly saying, like, no state for the Palestinians. We're going to ethnically cleanse them. Like, these conversations are so far removed from the reality, okay? These conversations are so far removed from the reality. Like, there is a Holocaust happening, man. What do you mean, a state? What are you talking about? The only reason why this conversation, this back and forth can take place is because most people are completely and utterly oblivious to what goes on. They are oblivious to the death and destruction.
State, but with all the security protections necessary for Israel, but for Palestinians also to be able to lead their lives in a way that they have hope and aspiration for the future with all the region. There has to be peace in this region. It's a wonderful part of the world, Matt. And the only way forward is for peace for all of the peoples in that region.
Lord Levy, thank you very much for your time.
Matt, thank you, sir.
Hasan Reactions, one of the best ones in the React channel.